My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from the outskirts of New York City, we have a real estate entrepreneur and a realtor, Oscar Olivo, zooming in to talk with us a little bit about how he's kind of transitioning from doing the good old BRRRR strategy with single family homes to scaling his real estate investing business using creative financing. So, Oscar, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to see you.
So you're a busy guy when it comes to real estate investing. You're juggling doing deals for yourself as an active investor. You're also helping other people buy and sell houses as a very active realtor. Tell us a little bit about how things work in your world with combining both of those. What does that look like?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's a great question. I almost feel like they're different work streams. I love to use the word work streams. And you kind of have to stay in your lane to a certain degree, right? When you're working with clients, with folks, sometimes they're first-time buyers or sometimes they're investors. They have a very specific, what they call a buy box, right? So the buy box is I'm looking for a home between 400, here in New York, things get pretty hairy with the prices, like, between 600 and 800,000, or sometimes it's north of a million or what have you, right? And then it's got to have like bathroom and bedroom on the first floor because I have an in-law and the in-law suite, right? So that's like
Yeah.
like a certain requirement for some folks, and then or they have kids and they want more bedrooms and like more areas, for the kid to play in. So you're kind of dovetailing those requirements with what investors are asking for. And in terms of, hey, okay, we want to purchase at this price. We have an after repair value. Help us out with the after repair value. And then what's the rehab cost? Ballpark of rehab costs. Because sometimes
So they're
if they are
asking
like a
you
first
for that
time,
information. They're asking you to come up
yeah,
with the
yeah. If
information.
the more seasoned folks that got like we have some of the 20, 30 flips under their belt, they're not
Yeah.
asking for any of that. But then some of the ones that are just starting out that kind of got connected to me through other channels, they need a little bit of a lending, a little bit helping hand in terms
Mhm.
of how to move along that. So that's one work stream. The other one is I have a multifamily in Rockland County. It's a fourplex, and then I have my hat on there. So in terms of putting listings on the MLS for my apartments, having them,
Oh, so actually looking for
turn
renters on the MLS.
exactly right. Also, sometimes I use Zillow or sometimes I use the MLS depending on the property and the time of year, how much exposure I want to get. And then to be able, since I'm a realtor, I can always, obviously do those listings and I can handle that as part of the turnover process. And then, meeting with my contractors to turn over a property. I'll be meeting one later this evening to go over a light refresh of our third floor. And then what's that gonna turn out in terms of cost and in terms of time to be able to have that ready for
How long have
folks.
you owned this particular property for, Oscar?
20 since 2020 February,
Okay.
and literally right like a month before COVID
Yeah. I
hit. our
remember those
first
days.
our
I was, where
first
the hell was I? I was in Phoenix, Arizona at the beginning of March when the world started to shut down. I was like, ooh, yeah. I remember those days. Vivid. We all do. So you
Yeah,
got it
it's
right at the
just,
beginning
yeah.
of COVID. That must have been a little bit hairy.
I had no idea what I was doing. Or just like you see all the bigger pockets, podcasts, burr, burr, burr. Everybody's got to get a burr. And then we just moved into Westchester County from Connecticut, and my wife and I were like looking for a home. Instead, we saw an investment property. We're like, let's pick up the investment property instead because it was such a good buy.
So
In
were you
terms
living
of
in
the
it as
numbers.
well? Were you doing a
Initially, yes,
act?
because
Yeah.
we did it as an FHA. Initially,
Yeah.
yes, and then when we refied out to all four, then basically I didn't have to live there anymore. So it was like one of these things where you're moving in, you're new to renovation as kind of like as a business, right? You can always say you've done like your kitchen remodel or whatnot at home, but
Yeah.
to actually move in, assess the property, and then understand about, okay, hey, we want to raise the rents, and then we also want to be able to improve the property. That way, when we go for the refinance, we have enough equity to cash out the amount of money that we put into it, right? That was the whole bird concept there. when they shut down the job site, they were driving around shutting down the job sites because people were having the flagrant violations for like $10,000 or whatnot. So I had to do it like one contractor at a time, basically, and make
Yeah.
sure that the tenants, existing tenants, weren't being disturbed. That you're not in your head. You're like,
No,
you
I was
probably
gonna
don't
say
want to. You
everybody's
probably don't want
wearing
to relive
masks
that
and the
part
whole
of
bit.
your.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to relive that part. You're just like, you know what, I'm so over it. But it took us about 2 years. First 4 units, we were able to raise the rents from 1,800 was our top rent. We raised it to 2,850. So between the equity, the forced equity, we were able to refinance it out. We had it priced somewhere around 1 million. We picked it up for 625.
Nice.
So we were able to, after putting about 200, two and a quarter, 250 into it, we were able to equal out in terms of the amount of money that we put in and the amount of money that we got taken out.
So it was a
Then,
legit
yeah,
burr. Like it
yeah, it
was
was
a
a legit
serious burr.
bird, which
Yeah.
which is buying it on the MLS, right? You're kind of at a disadvantage already because you're buying it retail. The rules like, hey, you're not supposed to. The whole ARV rule, the whole 1% rule, all that. We didn't really have access to all that, right?
Yeah.
We're just kind of running the numbers, like, okay, how's this thing going to work in terms of the purchases
So
and
did you have real estate investing experience prior to that, or was that your first
that was
deal
the
as
first
an
one.
investor?
That
Yeah.
was the first deal
And
as an
then was
investor.
moving into this new market, was that when you first got started as a realtor as well, or had you been a realtor where you were previously?
I decided to get into being a realtor because I had a management company that I was basically paying them to list the properties, and I said I can basically do this myself.
Hmm.
So why not become a realtor? And then also I wanted to be an investor. I wanted to work more with buyers and understand what buyers were looking for. And I
Yeah.
felt the most expedient way to do that was to become a realtor, start taking, literally for me, my background is in IT. I'm very much a data guy. I'm like the computer guy, so to speak, over 25 years. So I never got in front of people like, from a pre-sales. Towards the end of my career, I started doing more pre-sales, but I feel like this is a crash course in talking to people and
Oh yeah.
understanding and buying and selling, right? Like, whereas as an engineer, I didn't want to talk to people before. It's
Of
just
course
like,
not. Yeah.
just give me what give me
Just
what
keep
you
on
want,
the
I'll do it.
keyboard and
Yeah,
give me a
yeah.
screen. Yeah.
Go away. Come back in 2 weeks. I'll
Yeah.
have that for you.
Very well. Yeah, that's a huge, huge switch for you. So what had been some of your key takeaways coming from that kind of behind the screen profession into this front and center, especially in a brand new market? Because I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar, you probably didn't have that many pre-existing connections in New York when you moved there, or did you? Did you have a bunch already? Or
I didn't. I had very
yeah, so you
few.
started
I
from
didn't,
scratch,
yes, no
no
mentor,
contacts
no,
and
no.
no experience. Good for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what did you learn? What are the big takeaways from that experience?
I think the takeaway is, and it seems so for folks working in real estate, it's such an obvious thing, right? That not everything's planned out, and then you have to be flexible, and then you have to basically work with everybody involved and solve problems. They always keep saying that, especially now that I'm working more on an entrepreneurial fashion, it's how many of other people's problems can you solve? And because you're in the business of solving problems and solving people, problems, whether it's, folks that are moving in or moving out of state or whatever it is, right? And also the same thing when you're managing contractors, when you're GCing and you're working with the trades, and the guy's supposed to show up at Saturday, but instead he just ends up showing up on a Sunday, right? As an engineer, it's like the total opposite. Everything's very much cookie cutter and very defined. Here, it's
Yeah.
completely throw that out the window. So for me, like I think thinking of patience is like number one, and then also looking for sort of like non-standard solutions to problems, like at the tool set. As an engineer, you have a tool set, but here you have to sort of create your own tool set or use other tools that you normally wouldn't in order to solve a problem. So everything can be solved. It's just you have to continually think outside the box. And I think after a few years, my brain started to kind of retrain itself
Yeah.
to think in that fashion, but it's very not easy at all for folks, working in W-2, very structured, especially with meetings. We have meetings, we carve out an hour, you have the agenda, you got the PowerPoint deck. These
Yeah.
are the things we're going to talk about. And at the 1 hour it concludes. Here you got Zoom sessions that last for like 2, 3 hours and everybody's talking about it. And they don't stay on topic and they're all over the place.
Must drive you,
They're
must have
talking about
driven you
their
nuts.
beards or something. I had no idea. Like it's whatever.
Hey, but what do you think are the transferable skills you brought from all those years of the tech side of things to your real estate investing and your realtor business?
Great question. Awesome question. So I feel that maybe it feels like not objective enough. The sense I get, better said, is that a lot of folks in real estate, a lot of these folks are visionaries. They've got like the 20,000 foot view of where they want their business to go. They're entrepreneurs. They don't mind getting on the phones. They don't mind talking to people. They don't mind making things happen. But then when the rubber hits the road, it's a business. You want something that's repeatable. You want something that you can mitigate risk. You want something that you can scale. You want standard operating procedures. You've got metrics. All these things. I come from a world where these are the drivers for the business. And in order to operationalize something, you have to have everything written down and done in a certain way, and it has to be repeatable. And then you hire certain people that do nothing but that every single day. They go in, they check on a server, they check on this, they go through the checklist, they make sure everything works, and that's basically what we want. It's a very repeatable cycle. So I feel like where I can add is I can work with those visionaries and then structure how they like to do business and make that repeatable and then help them to scale. Because those whole operational aspects, they're not used to working with those on a day-to-day basis
Yeah.
like I used to. So that's where I feel, that and the technical tools, the technical background, that's what I feel I can add. As I'm looking to joint venture with different investors.
Yeah. So speaking of that, where do you see you and the investing side of your real estate business going over the next year or so?
Great question. So for me, it's all about scaling, and then the lesson with the multifamily and also this other flip that we did earlier this year, sinking our own money in is like rule number one: do not use your money. And then rule number two, how can you scale using creative finance or use other people's money in order to be able to make these purchases, right? And then there's so many other different markets that I've experienced over the past year in terms of traveling nurses, sober living, co-living, other methods that you can use to not only, get a hard money lender for the majority of the price, get gap funding, and then for the gap funding for the rehab. And then at that point, you refi or you do a DSCR loan, and then you have basically a property that's cash flowing and meeting a certain need, and then you go and do it again, and then you're very little out of pocket.
Mhm.
That's really my end goal. So as being the engineer that I am, I know it's going to take me a little long because I've got to analyze every single thing first, overanalyze it, think it over, put it together in a nice little box, and then I'm gonna go do it. I'm not very in that sense a bit risk averse, where
Yeah.
I'll do it and I'll course correct. Like we call it in IT, we call it building the highway and driving on it at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Versus
don't like
versus
building.
the ready, fire, aim of some of the rest of us.
Yeah, well, you don't want to build the highway while you're driving on it. That's a little dangerous, right? So you build it and put all the pieces together first, and then you drive the highway,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
then this becomes something that scales. So, and I get it. There's a balance there because sometimes you don't want to go into analysis paralysis, and then there'll be your excuse for not doing anything. So,
Mhm.
trying to balance both worlds out in a
Very
sense.
good. Well, hey, Oscar, I wish you all the best in your continuing journey with real estate investing. And if some of our listeners or viewers would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that? If you only had like one place to send somebody, where would you send them?
Well, I would send them to. I have a new Instagram account that Oscar Olivo that I started, and that's going to be the one I'm going to use not only for my lending business, but also to connect with me for deals. As I'll start doing more outreach for deals from not only wholesalers but agents and other investors as well. So I would say, yeah, either through Instagram, definitely get a hold of me, and then we can work together.
That sounds good. Well, I wish you all the best and thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, take care and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.